it's like 2 million ounces of gold. So 2 million ounces of gold at 4 grams. If you like base metals, it's 1 million tons of zinc equivalent at 7%. So depending on how you look at it, the reason we use equivalencies is partly because it's easier. It's one commodity, and silver. If you look at it on the silver, it's it's under it's about 170 million silver equivalent ounces, and do the math at 170 million times $30 an ounce. Anybody can do the math and give you a sense of the metal in situ metal there. But it's still on an inferred resource, so we've got work to do to move it up to the confidence level, which is indicated and then measured, and then you get into reserves and economics. And my goal is to get a couple of aggressive drill seasons on this project, and then get it into preliminary economic assessments and how quickly can we move this thing to a development scenario.
Gary Thompson, Silver47, good morning to you. What's going on?
Good morning. Good. Just chipping away. Another rainy day in Vancouver as I look out the window.
You're in Vancouver. You're in headquarters. You look like you're in Alaska.
I'm in the headquarters. Yeah, a little wet. So not too bad.
So let's get to it. Your project was actually interesting to me. The reason that what stuck out in my mind is the Red Mountain project is in Alaska, and I've driven up through there, been to Denali so many times. My daughter's actually this summer is going to be working for Princess Tours in Denali, so maybe I should have her come see the project and report back to me.
Okay.
But give me a 30,000-foot view, and then tell me about what you're doing in Alaska with Red Mountain.
Yeah. Well, it's strategically located. It's about 100 kilometers south of the town of Fairbanks, and kind of on route to Anchorage. So we've got rail and road and power out to the west. There's a Usabelli coal mine and power plant out there. So we have a big block of ground, something like a 60-kilometer trend of favorable geology. It's had north of $30 million spent on the project to date by mostly other operators. In fact, we just had our first program, small drill program in 2024, but it had a lot of work previously on it. And the interesting thing is, and the fact that we're interested in the project is that it's a polymetallic deposit. It's a silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc, VMS and SEDEX type deposits. And so there's been a defined resource on the project we had done in 2024 that gives us 15.6 million tons using a silver equivalent grade of about 336.
Really?
If you actually break that down and just to simplify it for the audience, it's an equivalent to about 4 grams of gold per ton. What that works out to is almost 170 million ounces of silver equivalent, or about 2 million ounces of gold equivalent, or to make it really simple, it's about $325 to $350 rock. So if you think of the mining costs, underground mining costs are about $100 a ton. Open pit mining costs are anywhere from $20, $30 a ton. So the fact that we've got these multiple metals, it's quite high grade.
Yeah, it's very high grade, actually. Go ahead.
Very attractive. We don't have economics on the project yet, so I can't give you any feasibility estimates, but I just look at other comparable mining operations, and those kind of grades can generate really good revenues. So what we need to do, what we are planning to do, is to continue to drill on the target to grow the resource, and move this thing towards economics, because we're just not there yet. While we have a substantial resource, there's still work to do to get it to a mine development scenario. So we're a ways away from that, but it's exciting because we've got a good resource in a good place.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, but you just talked about a lot of different things and it just opens up so many questions for me, if you would. So this is just one asset here, and I want to delve a little bit deeper into this asset. Yeah, very high grade, it sounds like. And I just, how many ounces of gold did you say? You said 2 million?
Yeah, well, on an equivalent. So if you break it down, I mean, there's a lot of zinc in the system.
Yeah.
It's 500,000 tons of zinc, 36 million ounces of silver, and about 200,000 ounces of gold. And then there's a copper and lead as well. So if you combine all that together and convert it into a gold equivalent, it's like 2 million ounces of gold. So 2 million ounces of gold at 4 grams. If you like base metals, it's 1 million tons of zinc equivalent at 7%. So depending on how you look at it, the reason we use equivalencies is partly because it's easier. It's one commodity, and
Yeah.
silver. If you look at it on the silver, it's it's under it's about 170 million silver equivalent ounces, and do the math at 170 million times $30 an ounce. Anybody can do the math and give you a sense of the metal in situ metal there. But it's still on an inferred resource, so we've got work to do to move it up to the confidence level, which is indicated and then measured, and then you get into reserves and economics. And my goal is to get a couple of aggressive drill seasons on this project, and then get it into preliminary economic assessments and how quickly can we move this thing to a development scenario. That's the question we have, and the goal that we have is to move it along the curve sooner than later.
Yeah, it sounds like you want to de-risk it as soon as you can, which is music to my ears. Next question I have is, what are the other assets that you have, and how do they add value? And is it possible that you'd sell those, spin those off, or do you want to develop those as well?
Yeah, so we have two other assets, one in British Columbia called Adams Plateau. They actually, all three of our assets have similar geological environments. So they're the SEDEX VMS, volcanogenic massive sulfide, similar commodities, silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc. They're all in that same vein. The one in the British Columbia one, the Adams Plateau I mentioned too, quite a large block as well, just earlier stage. It's had a lot of historical work on it. We picked it up as well a few years ago. I think that one is probably available. That's the property of merit that could be a listing property for somebody. Our main focus is the Red Mountain in Alaska. That's where we're putting all our dough. The other asset we have is in the Yukon called Michelle. In fact, that's how the company started. In 2021, we struck a deal on that project. We got super lucky in our first season of drilling. We made a substantial silver discovery, 15 meters, 900 grams silver plus 30% lead zinc. However, we're stuck in a permitting delay on that project, and it's gone to a judicial review with the Yukon and Yukon government and YESAB, which is a permitting body. So it's causing delays in that. So we don't have a budget plan for that project. That could provide some substantial value to us if either one of those projects would farm out or sell. But for the moment and for 2025, in the short term, all of our efforts is focusing on advancing the Red Mountain project, partly because it's a substantial resource identified already. So we're further ahead on the development curve. As much as, I'm an exploration geologist, so I love that early stage. New discovery is always exciting. But when you can put your hands on a real asset that has potential to make good economics, we're just further ahead on the development curve for Red Mountain versus the other ones. That's
Got it. Sounds like it. Let's go back then to Red Mountain. Two questions that I have. You mentioned really, well, you didn't say it directly, but you talked about power lines and roads. That's what I want to know. Infrastructure. Is there already I'm very familiar with that area, and I was looking at a map. I believe you're about, correct me if I'm wrong, about 20 miles from the freeway there. Is that about right?
Yeah, there's a railway that runs from Fairbanks down to Anchorage.
Yep.
So,
I've been on it.
Yeah, so there's a winter road or winter trail that we access into the claims. And then when I flew in there last summer, it was about a 20-minute fixed wing flight to there's two airstrips. We're looking at actually rebuilding a camp, so we're still working through that. So there's a bit of infrastructure that is needed there, but not big, not a big deal, and that really relatively small road work that needs to be done. So right now, like last season, we used the fly-in operation, a short fixed wing flight to the airstrip, and then work from there. We've got some plans to use the winter trail before spring breakup to help bring in supplies and materials on the winter trail, which just reduces your air support costs. But one thing I'll just point out is one good thing about Alaska. Well, there's lots of good things about Alaska, but one important things on the infrastructure side is sovereign fund in Alaska. It's called ADA, and they actually provide a short-term or term debt funding for infrastructure build. So while we have some infrastructure work to do, we see an opportunity to bring in ADA to help fund that portion. So I'm not too worried about it. In medium to longer term, we're gonna solve those infrastructure challenges. So technically, you can jump in your car and drive there, but there's not a ton of work to make that happen, and it's something that we're going to work on over the next couple of years.
That was really my question, just so I'm clear, is you're going to have to build more or less a road or add to an existing road. And then are there power lines to the camp now, or are you going to have to run some lines yourself?
Yeah, currently it's diesel generation. Yeah, I'm running these remote sort of camps, exploration camps. Is pretty common.
Yeah.
Yeah, longer term when we're advanced into, like I say, into a development scenario, you'd bring power in, you'd get a road in there.
Yeah.
But it just becomes a line item on your project development costs. And if you've got an infrastructure fund that's willing to fund that, again, that's just less risk on the companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Absolutely.
well for exploration stories. But that's also the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I guess the positive, it's all positive, don't get me wrong, but the positive is that you're close to the main freeway, if you would, for lack of a better word, from Fairbanks to Anchorage. So
Yeah, and rail. I mean, you get
and rail.
the way we envision it is you've got these metal deposits that are massive sulfide. So you pull out the metals and you concentrate the metals into they call it a concentrate, and then you put that concentrate likely on the rail just because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So you just build a dock to the rail station and set up there and feed into the rail and get that down for the port. So that's the plan there.
It's the plan. Okay, and real quick, what was the question about that? Well, I had another question that I just forgot that was interesting, but okay. But Red Mountain, so that's where the chips are at. Though, tell me about your permitting process here. You got a drill permit, obviously, but tell me about, it sounds like you want to de-risk this as fast as you can. So you're looking to bring this into, you said development and production. You didn't say production, but I'm assuming that's the direction you're want to go into, which is actually quite rare for a junior exploration company there. So what's an ETA on getting mining permits? And my other question was, is this going to be an open pit mine or is this going to be underground?
Well, to answer their last question first, right now the resource looks at both underground and open pit. So we haven't defined the outer limits of this resource, which is an exciting part. So it's still wide open. We have mineralization at surface. So obviously that's easy pickings from an open pit perspective. But then as you go deeper into the system, then you get to the ends of your economics on your open pit. So then you go underground on these things. So we're still working through that, and that will come as we further define it. And the drilling, like I say, is relatively wide open. So there's more work to do to define those limits of the resource. Permitting wise, I mean, we are on state managed land. So not only is that favorable we have a very pro mining jurisdiction like state of Alaska. So we think those timelines are relatively short. We're fully permitted for what we're doing. And as we move into a development scenario, I'd see a relatively short timeline. So from where we are today to actually moving, potential ore out of the ground, we're talking sort of, 4 years, 5 years, that sort of timeline, because we still have a couple of years of resource growth. We want to We want to get this. Our base case resource target is 500 million silver equivalent. So it's more like a triple of where we are today. So double to triple the current resource, which would put us in sort of 5 to 6 million ounces gold equivalent, 500 million silver equivalent, depending on how you look at it, or 3+ million tons of zinc equivalent. So either way you look at it, that's silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc. That's the commodity mix. And I think one thing to note is that people may not appreciate polymetallic deposits. They're actually quite favorable for mining because it helps to normalize your production profile from a commodities. If you have, let's say, use silver, for example, if the price of silver gets depressed, whereas lead and zinc and say gold are high, it kind of balances out. It normalizes your production profile, if you will. So it's just positive thing. But the reason we're interested in it is the gold and silver potential. And in fact, this last season that we drilled on there, we drilled some of the highest grade gold intervals. We had a 2.5 meter zone of massive sulfide that had 15 grams of gold, 250 grams silver, plus 20+% lead, zinc. So really high grade. We get these high grade massive sulfide horizons that are really quite continuous. So the point of that is that we demonstrated better grades, but I think that came because we had the A-team drillers and we got better core recovery. So I think if that can hold true to the future drilling, then we will improve our, not only do we plan to grow the resource, but improve the grade quality.
Got it. So a few on this, I'm going to just mention this for the listeners. Let's go back to permitting. You can certainly comment on this. Obviously, you don't want to give too much of an ETA on getting a mining permit, regardless of where you're at. That being said, it's been my experience in talking with CEOs and companies like yourself in the state of Alaska is different, meaning it's very, very friendly. And I've heard of mining companies getting a permit to mine in 12 months. That is exceptionally quick. And it really helps that you are on state lands as opposed to federal. So do you see anything different or contrary to what I've just said?
No, I think it's a fast track process, which is music to our ears as well.
Yeah, excellent. So let's talk about share structure here. I was going and market cap. So here's a question. This might be a little bit of a gotcha question because I was poring over your company presentation, which is very well done and easily to understand, by the way. And I'm just thinking to myself, why isn't your share price higher and as tight as you guys are? I mean, wow, you guys are sitting on a lot of your assets are very rich. Okay.
If you look at it, and let's talk about our capital structure. So we have 50
You got
million,
me.
50 million shares outstanding.
Yeah, which is very tight.
Yeah, we
Congratulations
have
on that.
Eric Sprott, Crescat Capital, and my family collectively own about 40% of this company. So only 50 million shares out. In fact, we've only been trading for 2 months. We traded, our first debut was November 14th, and we've traded around 11 million shares of our 50 million. So unfortunately, we've come off. I mean, the market's been, as some of the listeners may know, the junior resource market has been challenging in Canada for the last few years, but we're certainly starting to see signs of life.
I think that's about to change.
Gold and silver pushing to record highs, and I think the trend looks like the trend will continue. So we're starting to see new money come back into the space. I think our sector has been challenged by easy money in the big tech stocks in the US, and a lot of money was chasing that. A lot of money was chasing Bitcoin. But, I think people are starting to put money back to work into hard assets. I think what we're seeing in the supply chain challenges with China blocking and, disrupting the supply chain of critical minerals. We're seeing a big push for critical minerals like zinc, like silver, like copper, like gold. All these things are critical for and, domestic production like the US. So I think we've got a clear path to fast track. And I think we're starting to see more capital come into the space, but that's the opportunity. We believe that we're extremely undervalued, but as
Yeah.
a new investor coming into the space, while you're getting a discounted opportunity, and you should be out there shopping right now because there's lots of great companies on sale in Canada that are in the resource space. So, and I think we're one of them, and we're a new story to the street. I mean, we're out marketing this company. It's even though we've been around since 2021, it's relatively new to investors because it's been private till just a few months ago.
Got it. Yeah. So, thank you for that. And I have been shopping actually myself and my fund the last, really since mid-December. There just is some incredible values out there. But again, to all of our listeners, that is my opinion. That is not advice. Um, so tell me a little bit about what are you fully diluted and where are your warrants written at?
Yeah, we're 64 million fully diluted. I think our average strike price on the warrants are 92 cents.
So a bit out
I
of the
mean,
money.
yeah, pretty much warrants are out of the money. So if you look back, the company to date raised about 10 million from 50 cents to 82 cents. Our last raise was 80 cents, 5 million at 80 cents. That was our last summer raise, sort of our pre-listing. So we did a direct listing. We didn't do an IPO. And we had a drill program and we got listed, and yeah, so here we are.
Got it. Okay. Steve, did you have any questions?
Good question, Ray Gary. Could you, by any chance, tell me any news that might be coming out in the next 2 quarters or so that you're able to comment about?
Yeah, so a couple of things we're working on. I mean, working on a US listing. So right now, we trade on the TSX Venture. AGA is the ticker. So we're working on a OTC, likely QB listing. So I'm told perhaps February we should have that. So that's something for us. And then obviously we're gearing up for a drill season, which will likely get going in sort of May, June timeline. So there'll be some news around that. We're still working through, I mean, one of the exciting things that we're looking at on this project is where's the low-hanging fruit on the resource. So we've been busy trying to figure out how do we add meaningful resource to this already substantial resource and good grade. So that's something that we would likely put out relatively soon once we had a chance to work on that. So here's a bit of a plan for 2025. How do we see substantially growing the resource? So we want to convey that message to the market because we believe that we're undervalued and people maybe not aware or don't really appreciate what we have here. But if we can demonstrate this high growth potential to not only grow but increase the grade but grow the resource, I think that will be something meaningful to the market. And then we're also, we're also actively looking for potential opportunities to grow this company, whether that's through M&A, other deal flow. However, that's always something I can't really talk more than that, but there's always a possibility of some of those kinds of things because as an exploration company, you're always looking at stuff. So, and then getting drilling, like I say, early spring, early summer, we'll be out there drilling. So that'll be the big catalyst for the season, is just getting those new drill holes in the ground.
And you said that you and your family own about 40% of the shares still?
No, so about 20%. And then the other big shareholders, Eric Sprott, which is a well-known resource investor billionaire, and Crescat Capital, which is a Denver-based precious metal fund. So they own about around 10 or 11%. And then Eric Sprott's about 10%. So combined, and with my family's investment, we're about 40% collectively.
Excellent. Thanks, Gary.
Gary, if people want to know more about you, the company, trade your stock, how do they go about doing that?
Silver47.ca is our website, so have a look at that. And obviously the ticker TSXV, AGA is the ticker. you could send an email to info@silver47.ca. We'll get that. And always happy to chat to anybody that wants to learn more.
All right. Gary, I want to thank you so much for your time. And yeah, we'll put everything that you just said in the show notes.
Thanks,
Great.
Gary.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care.